In this video, we're going to tackle a problem that is a concern to a lot of people, but particularly to women, and that is the having children or starting a family. So what does it mean to have kids or start a family when you're in grad school or when you're on a tenure track but you don't have tenure yet? And what do you do about the guilt you might experience when you are away from your family and friends? That's coming up in this video. Hi everyone, I'm Leigh from teachingacademia.com, and I'm all about giving you the tools you need to navigate academia to make your best impact. If you're new here, make sure you hit the subscribe button so that you get new notifications because I put out new videos each week. So today we're going to talk about something that is really common in grad school or when you get on the tenure track, and it's a particular common concern to women, and that is starting a family or entering into either of those positions, having kids. Okay, and so what is it that you do when what does it mean to have kids or start a family when you're in grad school or on the tenure track? And what are you supposed to do about the guilt you might experience when you are away from families and friends? So first of all, I want to be really upfront about this. I don't have any biological children, okay? So I'm not a parent in that traditional sense. So I went through grad school without children. I got married while I was in graduate school, went on to find a tenure track position. And after I got tenure, we decided that we wanted to adopt, and we looked into a bunch of options, got frustrated with the whole process, and actually ended up becoming foster parents. And so if you're familiar with the foster care system, while it can vary state to state, I think it probably took us about a year to have to take classes, and then you have to get fingerprinted, and you have to have CPR training, and people have to come to your house and look at it, make sure it's okay, it's not a fire hazard, and all sorts of stuff. And these things have to be done in a particular order. And I think that probably took about a year before we got approved to be considered to be foster parents. And when we were approved as foster parents, we really wanted to take on teenagers, okay? So we did that for that probably took up 3 or 4 years of our lives. And then if you know, again, about the foster care system, you have to you have to sort of get recertified. There are things that you have to do to continue to be certified. We were really burned out by the foster care system at the end of, I think, 4 years or so. So we did not renew. But my point is, while I don't have experience as a biological parent, I do have experience in terms of parenting children, having them live in my house with me, and going through this foster care system. It's a little bit different, but it presents its own challenges. And so I think that's the thing too, is to realize that anybody who has kids, be it biological or they've adopted or they're foster parents, they all have their own unique situations, and each one of those brings its own unique challenges, okay? So I've known people that have had kids when they're in grad school. I've known people that have started their families as assistant professors. I've known people that have adopted kids as infants and adopted older children that were in the foster care system when they were both pre and post tenure. So, you have kids, your kids have a range of needs, be they biological or adopted, okay? And so that comes with its own special unique circumstances. I obviously can't address all of those special and unique circumstances. What I want to do is to sort of take a step back and give you some advice on how to manage this, okay? Because I know, like, from having been a foster parent and having kids with special needs, it can be very draining. Particularly emotionally draining, not just the time demands that it places on you, but the emotional demands that being a parent places on you. It can be very draining. So here's the thing. First off, if you find yourself pregnant, right, in graduate school or pre-tenure, or if you're going to be adopting, okay, look and see, what's the policy on that, okay? If there's an extension, so first of all, if you're in graduate school, you can probably apply for an extension and you'll get it. And then you just go at a slower pace, and you should meet with your advisor or your committee and sort of navigate, like, what do I expect that will look like, okay, going into having a baby or adopting a baby. And then, so you sort of have a plan, or you think you have a plan, right, mapped out. And then once you get in that situation, revisiting with your advisor or your committee and saying, okay, here's what I thought my life was going to be like, and it's kind of like this, or it's not like this at all. And here's what I need to do. I need some help sort of revisiting and restructuring my plan so that I graduate, okay? So that's thinking about it from a grad student perspective, sort of taking an extension. As a tenure track faculty member, first of all, when you interview, it is nice if you can find out what the, if there is some kind of tenure clock extension, if people will stop your clock if you become pregnant or choose to adopt. Some universities may distinguish between the two. I worked for one for a really long time that didn't, right? I could have had a biological child, I could have adopted an infant, or I could have adopted a child from foster care, and the same policy would have applied to me, right? I could have taken a semester off that gets negotiated, and at full pay, and I could have extended my tenure clock, I think, by at least a year, but it might have been a year and a half. It was really reasonable, whatever it was. So different universities have different policies. So when you're interviewing, what I found is that when I was interviewing as a doctoral student, that a lot of women, I never asked questions about what if I start a family, what's your policy. I felt really vulnerable. Like maybe people wouldn't want to hire me if they thought I was going to do that, which is, understandable, because that still happens, unfortunately, right? But what I found is that women really stepped up to the plate, and they would just pull me aside and they would say, look, we're not asking you anything about what you want, okay, in terms of a family, but we're just here to tell you, in case you want this information, here's the family leave policy, right? If you become pregnant, if you have a baby, if you adopt, whatever, here is the university policy, okay? And here's how this works. And there are women that said, when I had a baby, this is how it worked for me. So if you're watching this and you're in a position where, you're not, somebody's interviewing, and particularly if, or that they might be interested in starting a family, or they could be. I really appreciated that, right? Just sort of somebody saying to me, you may or may not be interested in this information. I don't want you to worry about it. I don't want you to have to ask about it. I'm just going to give it to you. Do what you want with it. Okay. I really appreciated that. So, find out about the policy, and hopefully it's online. Hopefully you can access these days like a handbook, a university handbook, where you'll be able to find out about it. And then the other thing is, when you actually have your child, right? What I learned from being a foster parent is time management is so important, right? I always stress time management in my videos. I talk about it a lot on this channel, but when you have a family, oh my God, right? So you really need to be adamant about blocking off your time for writing, research, and teaching. And I will tell you this, there were times when, as a foster parent, things got so difficult that I had time blocked off to do writing, and I would open up, my file to do it, and I wouldn't do it. Like, I would just sit there staring at the computer because I was depressed, because the kids that we had with us at the time, it was so overwhelming, and it was so hard, and they needed so much, and I was giving so much that it was affecting me, and I needed help. So that's the other thing to be mindful of, right? Like, if you sort of find yourself in a situation like I did, where you have time blocked off for writing, and I was sitting at home in my writing space, nobody was there, it was super quiet, I was ready to go. And I don't mean just one day. I mean like every day, right, that I sat down to do this, like stuff wasn't getting done because I was getting too depressed to do it. So I had to recognize that, and then go back and ask my then husband, like, for some help, right? Like, we have to talk about this. Do I need a therapist? What do we need to do? We need to find some changes to make, because I'm starting to get into a bad spot. So on the one hand, you have to be adamant about blocking off your schedule, okay? On the other hand, you also have to recognize when maybe you are having some difficulties that are preventing you from getting your schedule done, okay? And then you have to find the support that you need. It could be from your partner, it could be from people at work, because it's going to depend on the nature of the problem, and ask for help. You have to be able to say, this is my problem. I know what I need, and maybe you do, or I need somebody that can help me think through what I need, okay? So time management, self-awareness, communication, those are all going to be critical here. And then the other thing, and this is easier said than done, but make time for your family. And obviously you're going to do that. Make time for your friends. That becomes a little bit harder. And make time for yourself, which for some of us is really hard to do because we want to put everybody else ahead of us. But make time for yourself, even if that is just an hour a week, or you take a 30-minute walk every day in the evening, or you meditate by 15 minutes every night before you go to bed. I don't know what it is that would work for you or that you would like, but it's important that you know what that is and find a way to make it a priority. And it might not be every day, but it needs to be some kind of regular thing that you're doing for yourself, making time for yourself as much as you can throughout the week. All right, so thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe so you can catch all of my videos. And while you're at it, head down to the comments and let's talk. What questions do you have about starting families in graduate school, starting families when you're on the tenure track? What are some things that you've had to navigate? What are some things that have been successful for you? What are some things that have been very challenging? And we can discuss and help you move forward with your academic journey.